Okay, so I'm going to move this around a little bit. Now, I am, just turn this off. I am doing a interview right now. It's about to start any minute now with Tim from Work at Home Rockstar. I haven't spoken to Tim before, so this is going to be interesting. And I'm just trying to got to turn everything off, so I'm just waiting for him at the moment. It's always that moment when I'm just turning off all my notifications, so the notifications don't come through. And for some reason, my Facebook still comes through even if I turn off notifications, so I'm going to turn that off. I'll turn that one off as well. Don't want anything open that's not meant to be open. So I do quite a few interviews, but the thing is that's really funny is interview starts now in 1 minute ago, and it's always that moment where we sit here going, I wonder. Oh no, he's online now. He's just come online, so I'm just going to say to him, I'm ready when you are. Now I've got a really, really bad cough, so I'm going to be silencing the actual interview as I go. So I've got my little, got my trusty microphone here, and I'll be silencing the actual interview when I do cough. But you're going to hear me, so just get ready for it, because I've been really sick this week. I've got some sort of flu. Tim's just saying, okay, he's nearly ready. Yeah, that's it. I've been super sick this week, and I was trying to get out of these interviews, and then I realized I just have to do them. I'm all dressed up because I'm about to run out the door. It's 7 o'clock here, and I've got an 8:30 dinner date with some friends. So I had to get ready beforehand. I don't usually look like this when I do my podcast interviews. Yeah, so I'll do my podcast interview and then run out the door and meet friends. And hopefully this cough is not so bad. So Tim is the podcaster at Work at Home Rockstar, and I'm really excited. But I actually don't even know what we're speaking about. Usually what happens when I do interviews, I get a list of questions prior to the interview. So you're going to see it raw. You're going to see exactly what it's like when I do answer questions. And hopefully most of the podcasters do cut out any of the ums and ahs and maybe pauses, especially if I'm put on the spot with questions. So you're going to be hearing it all live. I know it's really, really bad right now. I've got like my little trusty, it's like a little lozenge thing that will hopefully clear my throat a little bit. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. I'm still waiting for him. I'm going to go check something out while I wonder if I've got this on the right Facebook, if I've got it on my personal, if I've got it on my, let's have a look. Oh, interesting. So this is funny. So while I've got you here on my phone, I'm actually looking at the screen on my laptop, and I can see it. Really scary picture, actually. Here we go. So we've got Tim now. Hi, Tim. How are you?
Very good. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for...
Can you hear me okay?
Pardon?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Wonderful. Thanks for postponing. I'm so sorry about last week with not having any internet. I wasn't expecting that to be the case at all.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, it was really difficult. It was 2 weeks with no internet, and we were told that we would have internet on the cruise, and it made it very difficult knowing that I couldn't even reply to people to tell them that I didn't have internet.
Yeah, that's weird, eh?
Very frustrating.
I wonder who dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah, I think that they'd had another cruise earlier in the year, but they had less people. This time we had 200 entrepreneurs on this cruise, and the company just wasn't expecting to need so much internet bandwidth for everyone. So I think they're going to make some changes for the next time. definitely.
Okay.
I was like the guinea
So
pig
there
group.
was internet, it just wasn't scalable.
That's right, and it ended up being that a couple of people were downloading Game of Thrones episodes, but the same episode got downloaded something like 6 times by 6 different people. So that was like the frustrating part, that was what we knew about as well. So we can imagine what else was getting downloaded at the same time. So it was really frustrating, but that's life. That's the way it is.
Yeah, I wonder if, isn't that terrible? You go on a business cruise and you spend your time watching Game of Thrones.
Exactly, yeah. But
Shouldn't they be networking and doing business?
Exactly. But some of the people were there, they were on a digital detox. And so they were saying to me, what's your problem? I'm on a digital detox and I'm fine. And I went, yeah, if I had planned it that way, it would be totally different. But that's not what I'd planned to do. So it made it frustrating for a group of us. And some people are looking at doing things. Someone mentioned suing the company. And there's been a bit of drama about it, definitely.
Well, yeah, I suppose, Because, if you're planning on doing business and you can't, then you would lose quite a bit, I imagine, right?
Well, I definitely did. So, and a few other people did as well. So, yes, I definitely won't be doing that again. I won't be risking that.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about what it is you do, your business.
So I now work with, over the last 8 or 9 years, I've been working with just different businesses, and now I concentrate on e-commerce stores. So I help e-commerce businesses go from the 4 or 5 figures into the 6, 7 figures with their business, really working on their getting new leads, getting more customers, positioning them as a brand online, things like that.
Okay. How long have you been working from home?
Always. I've always worked from home. So I used to own a hairdressing salon years ago, and then I got into doing hair and makeup, and I had an agency, so I ran the agency from home. So from probably 2006 when I sold my salon, I've been working from home. It's like 10 years.
10 years. Awesome. That's one of the longest on my show so far.
Oh,
Good
fantastic.
stuff.
Fantastic.
So 10 years at home. What do you like? So if you do like a tagline or like something to describe yourself or what you do?
Yeah, did you get my one sheet? I've got something there on my one sheet. I can't think off the top of my head what I've put on there.
Oh geez, I must. Let me just bring it up.
I've been sick with the flu all week, so my brain's not working as well as it normally does. Or maybe it's just normal. Here we go. So I've got 2 things that I've got there. I've got the e-commerce growth specialist and helping online stores go from 4 or 5 figures to 6, 7 figures.
Huh. Oh, you have an assistant, do you? Or
No, I do some stuff with interview connections.
either Angela. Yeah, because I don't actually see your one page. But it might have come from somebody else, eh?
Yeah, I can send it through right now to you. Actually, I'll send
Okay.
it through him. So whereabouts are you based?
Oh, I'm in Canada.
Oh, you're in Canada. Very nice.
Moncton, New Brunswick, Canada.
Where's that near?
Sorry?
Where is that? What's it near?
Where is it? Where are you?
I live in Spain at the moment, but I'm from Australia.
In Australia. Okay. So you're probably more familiar. Well, it's at the far east coast of Canada. So it borders with Maine, which is the far east coast of the United States.
Fantastic. Yes, I know that side. I haven't been to Canada yet. It's one place I want to get to.
Well, I haven't been to Australia yet. I
Yeah.
haven't been to Spain yet either.
Well, you're better off going to Spain. It's a lot closer for you than Australia is.
Yeah, but Australia sounds so much more fun.
Yeah, it is a beautiful country, definitely. People wonder why I left there. I can't, for some reason now it's not, I can see it, but it's not coming up in my,
That's okay. I don't really need a ton from it because I don't
Perfect.
do I don't know if you've listened to any of my podcast episodes. Have
yes,
you? Or
yes,
no?
I did. Yes, I listened to a couple of them.
I'm really quick on the introduction. I don't spend a whole lot of time. We get really kind of. I feel like people can learn about you in the show notes.
Perfect.
Let's get right into the meat of it all, right?
Perfect.
So yeah, usually all I just say is how long you've been working from home. So 10 years from home, and then I usually do like a quick little. She is a blank for the introduction.
Okay, so I've just dropped it into Skype actually. I just put it in there. So yeah, e-commerce specialist, marketing specialist.
Specialist. And you help
E-commerce stores.
E-commerce stores. Oh, there's your one sheet. I see it now.
Perfect.
Oh, very good. I'm just looking at it right now.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay. So, got a little checklist of things to go through here. So, first of all, notifications. You got all your notifications turned off?
Yes, everything's off.
Awesome. And then pronunciation of your name.
Caroline Balinska.
Caroline?
Yes.
Line, okay. Caroline Balinska.
Perfect. That's it.
Okay. And so questions. So based on my previous interviews, really I focused more or less on the your area where you work and all that stuff. Now, do you have someone else who works at home with you?
No, just me.
Okay. No kids
No.
to balance.
I definitely wouldn't have time for kids.
What's that?
I definitely wouldn't have time for kids.
Yeah. They do take some time, don't they? Okay, well, let's get this thing started then.
Okay, I'm ready.
So what I'll do is I'll hit record, and then I'll take a second just to make sure it's recording, and then I'll do a little intro, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect. I'm ready.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. Today's guest has been working from home for 10 years. This is one of the veterans, I guess, and she is an e-commerce marketing specialist. I'm really excited to talk to her. Her name is Caroline Balinska. Caroline, are you ready to rock?
Yes, I am. Thanks, Tim, for having me.
Beautiful. So tell me, 10 years ago, how did you become a self-employed work-at-home rock star?
Well, I've been self-employed since I was about 18, and I had a hairdressing salon, and then I sold that when I was about 25 and moved into quite a few other businesses. So along the way, I had a singles dating events company, if you want to say it that way. And so we had that. I actually bought it from one of my clients. She'd become sick when I sold my salon, so she became sick, so I bought the business off her and turned that around. So I was running that from home and running events, and then went on to sell that on to someone else. And I then went into starting my own shoe label, which again I was doing from home and selling shoes and going out to the market to sell shoes and selling them online as well via my website. And then from there, I got back into hair and makeup and had an agency. And when I had that agency, I had 12 girls working for me. And those girls all went out to do the jobs and I just got the work for them via my website. And over that time, I started doing marketing. And when I started doing marketing, well, I started doing it for myself online. And then I started to get other people requesting help on their websites because they saw what I was doing on my own websites. And started doing online marketing. And that's how I got into online marketing. But I've worked from home ever since I sold my salon. I've been working from home. And it's sort of, for me, I think the funniest thing for me about working from home is how natural it comes to me. And I wake up in the morning and get straight to work. And people find it really surprising because they say to me, don't you have that moment of, I don't want to work? But I think because I love what I do, I don't see it as a burden. I actually enjoy it. And I have no problems rolling out of bed and getting straight to work in the morning.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean, and a lot of the rock stars online give me the same story, is that it's not really work, it's more fun, And it's kind of a shame that a lot of people see it as a negative thing, right?
Yeah, I think it's a different mentality. I do have some people say that they need to go out and work from an office space. And I've tried that a few times. I'm here in Barcelona. I've got some friends, and even back in Australia, I had friends who had office spaces and co-working spaces, and they'd always say to me, come and work from here. And I tried it. And for me, I just like the tranquility of my own environment. And it means that I think for me especially, I like to go for a run or a ride at different times of the day, or go for a coffee with friends. So I know I can get up, be in my pajamas, do some work, go out for a run, have a shower when I want to, run out and have a coffee with friends when I want to. And I'm not stuck with going into the office, coming home from the office to do those things that I like to do during the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's no commute as well.
Exactly. It saves me a lot of time for sure.
So usually I start off the interviews with a little bit of a kind of a real question, because, as rock stars, we all hit bad notes from time to time. So what was the worst entrepreneurial moment for you?
Wow, this is one that I've had a few. I really have had a few. I've had many different businesses over the years. The worst one was probably the one that cost me over $100,000. And I was 25 years old. I sold my house and invested all my money into my shoe label. And I had large size lady shoes. So it was very, very niche and very specialized. And long story short, I was getting them manufactured in China. I'd spoken to a lot of business people, and I had gotten a referral from someone who promised me, it was a friend of a friend whose factory it was, and promised that I didn't need to have my own people on the ground checking things, that they had that in place for me. Very naive for me at the time. And I got the samples and they were wonderful, and I went ahead. I hadn't paid them any money up until then, and got the samples, was very happy, and said, go ahead, sent them the money, and they switched the leather and the soles on me. So what I actually got in the end was a completely different product, and I couldn't sell it for the price I wanted to. People said, just just sell it at that price. And I said, I'm not that person, because I know it's not worth that much anymore. And on top of that, to make things even worse, I had air freighted things in from China and got them to measure the size of the box, the container. And they gave me the measurements. I had a broker dealing with it and paid 15,000 Australian dollars to have it shipped to Australia, which I had allocated into my budget. And it got to Australia and I got a call from customs saying, you owe us another, I paid $7,000 up front, and they said, you owe us another 15,000. So it came to about 21,000 in total that I had to pay. And I was very stuck with, if I didn't pay that money, I couldn't get the shoes out of customs. So I had to pay the money, or I just had to leave the shoes in customs, which cost a lot more than that $15,000. So I lost a lot of money in that business, and set me back quite a long way over the years with that situation. So a big lesson learned, but it's, for me now, being in e-commerce and helping other people, it's an area that I can definitely give a lot of advice in, because I've been through the worst situation possible.
Wow. Well, what did you learn from that scenario?
I learned don't trust anyone. So
wow.
I'd been to China 3 times and met with many different factory owners, and a friend of mine in Australia had a very dear friend of theirs, and he was going to look after me. I don't blame this guy at all, but he put me onto someone else, and they put me onto a factory, and they had said that they will do the final checks of all the stock before it actually gets packaged up. And people said to me afterwards, oh, well, you should have known better. And I said, well, no, if you're getting guaranteed through a referral that it's going to be checked properly, you know, okay, now I know I was stupid to trust them. But, you know.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a tough scenario, though, because really, I mean, you have to trust certain people in business. I mean, you can't get anything done if you do it all on your own. You need help from other people. So, you know, where do you draw that line, right?
Exactly. And, you know, there's so much more to that story. Like, there was all these other parts of it. I was really fortunate because right towards the end, I have the order on them. And thank God I did, because at the last minute I said, no, I want to half the order. I'm not giving you the full amount of money. I'm going to pay for half of the order and then I'll order more later on. Luckily, I did that, so I was only in debt by $100,000 and not more. I don't even want to think about the figure. And I also had another really bad experience before I started building websites and before WordPress was so what it is now. I had a company build me a website for another business I had, and I paid them $15,000 for a $30,000 job. It was like a massive website, and I didn't mind paying the $30,000, but once I got to the $15,000, they said to me, actually the price has gone up to $45,000, and I never got any of my money back, and I never got a website or anything. So I've been ripped off in a few different ways and learnt my lesson from that. They're very expensive lessons, but yeah.
Well, those are the ones you really learn from, right?
Exactly. And, you know, a lot of people say that I've got a lot of guts and I do go forward, and I have from a really early age. I have been the person to take the bull by the horns and try things out. And okay, I've failed, but I've also succeeded along the way as well. And I think that that's part of being an entrepreneur. You have to fail along the way as well.
Yeah, exactly. You don't really learn from the things that go right. You know, you just kind of keep moving forward. But it's the things that go wrong that you're like, okay, this is why I need to have a process around this. This is why I have to have a policy. And, you know, that's where you grow, right?
Exactly. And I think that that's what makes me able to do my job so well now. And when I was on the cruise, I was actually mentoring a couple of people on that cruise. And one of them in particular was talking about, a couple were talking about manufacturing in China. So I was able to give my advice and really explain to them how careful they have to be and certain things that they have to look at, which means that, you know, my bad experience is something that they won't need to go through now in the future.
Absolutely. You've got some real life experience that you can share with other people and make sure that they don't go through that. And because of that massive price tag, people are going to take you seriously as well.
Exactly. That's right.
So you've been working from home for 10 years. What does your home office look like? I like to ask people about their jam room.
Okay,
What does that look like for you?
Right now it's an absolute mess. I was sitting here thinking, oh my God, it's such a mess, because I just got back from my trip. I was away for 3 weeks and I'm just looking and I've got paperwork everywhere. I don't have a lot of things. I try to keep all of my stuff down to a minimum because I don't really need much at all. When I was in Australia and I left Australia, I looked at my desk and I had so many bits of paper and printer and everything. And I've really just come down to a laptop, a couple of stands for my camera and like equipment like that, a microphone, and a couple of bits and pieces, hard drives. I really don't have a lot of things because I don't really need it anymore.
Do you work from home most of the time, or do you kind of have a mobile office? Do you go outside or anything like that?
Yeah, I do. Now that I'm living in Barcelona, and Barcelona has so many really nice places to sit. There's quite a few nice rooftop gardens that I sit in, and also a few places down in the port where I can sit on the water and work from there. Or a friend of mine has a little a workspace, which is, I work from his like deck there that looks over the port, so looking over these multi-million-dollar boats. So yeah, it's really nice to be able to work from different locations at different times.
Now, every rock star needs a good band around them, and it sounds like you've got some really big things on the go for you. Who do you have around you that helps you make your business run?
My latest person that I put on was my social media manager, and I have to say I'm one of those people that I like to have control over my own things. So I like to do everything on my own, and that's always been probably the worst thing that I do. I'm not good at delegating. And up until recently, I had a couple of people in my social media team, but I was sort of managing them on a day-to-day basis. And I realized a few months ago, I've got to stop that. So I put on a manager, and I love her, and I no longer know anything that's going on. The only thing I do is my personal group, which is my community, which is e-commerce, Backstage Pass. I take care of that. But other than that, she takes care of everything for me, and my clients' work as well. And it's lifted so much burden off my shoulders. So I've got my social media team. I've got a couple of VAs that work with me. And I'm looking for an accountant, but I don't know how to delegate that yet. So that's my next big task. Yeah.
So then a question on that. I mean, obviously you've been through some really tough situations with trusting people. How do you go about finding these people that work with you so that you can, trust them?
It's a long process. So my VA and one of my social media guys, they've been with me for 4 years or 5 years now. And I start everything off as just in really small bits and pieces. So I don't give them too much to begin with. And I guess that when it comes to delegation, anything that can be done repetitively is something that you can delegate out. So when you're trying to get to that point, it's a really good idea. Put someone on these VAs. Like, you go onto these different websites now. They keep changing the name, Odesk, Upwork, whatever they call it. You can find someone on there for, a couple of hours a week, and find one task that you can actually put into a document and give them that one task, and then make sure that they can do that properly. And then a few weeks later, give them another task and another task. It's easier to do when you're starting out, when you're not overwhelmed to begin with, because then you can put small people into spots slowly. The problem is when you get overwhelmed and you've got so much and suddenly you freak out and you think, I need to get everything done by everyone else. That's when you can't delegate out properly. So yeah, just trying to give people one task at a time and just building them up and just getting them to practice. And what I say is, if they can't get it right by the second time, get rid of them. There's so many other people out there. There's too many people that I've come across that say, yes, 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 I'll do it. They're all yes people. And then when it comes to it, they can't do it. So I don't give them more than 2 chances, because it's going to be an ongoing battle. And I've learned from mistakes in the past. I try to give people, I think, I'll give them another chance, but they're never going to get it right. If they can't get it by the second time, they're never going to get it right for you.
I think that's really good advice, like 2 parts of it. Number one is, what I'm learning is that start to delegate early when you're not overwhelmed, and then just, throw little bits and pieces so that you can start to build that relationship. Because you probably, if you do wait till you're overwhelmed, well, then you'll probably end up in a situation where you were in the very beginning, where you delegate off things because you have to, and then you end up making terrible choices.
Exactly.
And then the second part is, you don't need to have patience with people. When you're just delegating off little things at a time, well, then either they get it right or they don't. You move on to somebody else. It's just a little thing, right?
Exactly. And another piece of advice on that is, when you're getting people who they're reading, you've got to remember they're reading something in text format. So giving them a video is a really good way. It makes it so much easier. If you can do a step-by-step video, it's going to be much easier. But what I like about especially my main VA, he's amazing. He always, every single task I give him, he always comes back to me and repeats the task back to me in his own words and says, Caroline, do I do this, this, and this? And that's when you know that they're actually trying to get it right. And he's actually willing to double check before he actually starts the process. So ask them to do that. Like, give them the task and then say, can you please just write back to me and explain it in your own words of what what you're meant to be doing.
That's a great idea. Yeah, because, and especially when you're hiring on things like Odesk, you may even get people that don't even speak English as their first language, so you might have a hard time with the communication right off the start, right?
And I think that I find that from a lot of people that speak English so English is not my first language, and I grew up in a household where English was, the second language. So I'm very used to that, but I see people whose English is their first language, they get frustrated really easily, but they don't understand that when you're writing something, even if you and I were to have a written conversation, we could put things out of context between the two of us when we do speak proper
Absolutely.
English. So you've got to think that person who English isn't their first language, you've got to think that your words might have
Text. That's why I think that a lot of times when you're communicating through text message instead of through phone, I mean, wow, things have changed a lot. When I started doing business, everything was by phone, and there was, I guess there was misunderstandings then, but now it's even crazier because you're sending a text message, you don't get tone, you don't get anything out of that. So sometimes you can have someone that takes it totally different than the way that you meant it, and it's definitely a challenge, even in the same language. So I can just imagine when you start to deal with people around the world, right?
And then on top of that, if you know what you're talking about and it's in your head and it's your passion and you know it, and then you're trying to give it to someone who it's something that they're not at the same level as you because it's not their business. When it's your own business, you know it in a very different way. And then you're asking them to take on a task that you know inside out. It also comes into, there's just so many different levels of it that really, all those layers make a big difference. Sometimes I read back stuff that I write to my staff and I think, oh my God, no wonder he didn't understand what I wrote. Like I now reading that back doesn't, because you try to shorthand it. Yeah, so I think video is the best. If you can put together a quick video, step by step, this is what you do, will make it so much easier.
Yep. And you know what? I mean, when you think about it as well, if you're delegating off a task that, is repetitive enough that you can delegate it off, and if you were expecting that person to understand it as well as you are, then why would they be doing it for a fraction of the cost? It's one of those things where, if they were as good as you were, well, then either you'd be paying them a lot more or they would be doing it for themselves. So, you kind of have to think about it like that and go, okay, well, this person clearly can't understand this at the same level as me. So I'm going to have to change my words a little bit and have a little bit more patience with this person because that's why I'm paying them less is because
Exactly.
I'm able to just delegate this off and they don't already know what I'm talking about, right?
Exactly. I do see that as a lot as well. And I say to people, you get what you pay for. If you're expecting to pay $5 for a job, then, it's all these people complaining about Fiverr saying, well, the jobs on Fiverr are bad. Well, what did you expect? Are you going to do a job for $5 that you want $100 for? No. So, you've got to understand that, of course, the price comes into it as well.
Well, and I posted a video about this actually recently, just about treating others the way you want to be treated as well. I mean, when you're hiring somebody, you've got to make that choice as well. You can find somebody who has a very clear understanding of what you're asking for and pay a premium for it. And really, it just comes down to a dollars and cents thing in your own business. Sometimes it actually makes more sense to spend a little bit more money, take a smaller margin, but make sure that it's getting done right and have them take ownership of that task. And, many businesses will do that. However, if you're not at a point where you can actually spend that money for that, well, then you're going to have a little bit more patience with these people, right?
Exactly. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that. And as you go by in this sort of business, you do realize that is so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that really, when it comes down to it, I think we'd all love to get our businesses to the point where everybody that we delegate things off to is actually an expert in that area, so you don't have to worry. I think that's kind of where we want to get to. So I mean, if you can find that person early on in your business and then delegate that completely off to them and they take ownership of that, well, then you can spend more time doing other parts of your business and maybe figuring out ways to systemize that. But if you had that dream team of people that really take ownership of each of those areas, well, then you're set. Now you're actually in a situation where you can actually walk away from that and know that everything is going to get done properly.
That was something that was really hard for me recently when I said that I took on a social media manager. It was that position of me thinking, can anyone do it as well as I do? But she is an expert in what she does. I made sure that I, interviewed quite a few people. I looked at their background and I took on someone that really understands that area and that's all she wants to do is just social media. So I can trust her. I trained her up and she does what I want her to do. And now she takes care of it. And it's freed me up to do more things that I want to do. And I think that's, as an entrepreneur, we don't realize that how much time we're wasting in roles that we don't need to do.
Absolutely. And I mean, the one thing to keep in mind, though, is that when you do hand something off, they can possibly do it as good as you. Maybe not the exact same way, But I mean, that's one thing that we have to kind of step back and go, okay, well, this person isn't doing it exactly the way that I would do it. However, the results are the same, so that's cool, right?
Exactly.
I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, we like things done our way, and maybe that can really stress out the person that really has ownership and they can do it as well as you. There are always multiple paths to get to the same destination.
Exactly. And if you train that person up, and as like you said, as long as they're getting to that goal, if they go about it a different way, as long as it's not taking more of your time where you're paying them for extra time, but as long as they're getting there, it might be a slightly different way. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. We have to work in the way we're comfortable.
Now, you mentioned earlier on that you jump out of bed and you're ready to get working right away, but I know that a lot of people have sort of routines that get them into that mood. So is that what's going, like, do you have a routine or a habit or something, a ritual that you do every day that really gets you moving, or is it just you just jump out of bed and hit your computer right away?
Well, I'm really bad like that. I try, and I'm trying more than ever to get out of bed and go straight for either a ride or a run as soon as I get up. That's what I'm trying to do. But I've got this really bad habit of going, I'll just make a quick coffee, and while I'm waiting for the kettle to boil, I will quickly check my email, and then suddenly it's like 3 hours later. So that's my really bad habit, but I do try to go first thing in the morning out for a ride or a run just to start the day off. But I'm also one that I can just grab my laptop and start working and get straight into it.
Yeah, I had somebody gave me some advice a long time ago that says for productivity to be more motivated in the morning is when you leave your task at night, the night before, don't complete it. Leave a little bit left to do. And for people like, I bet you you're the same way as me.
Way.
I wake up in the morning, I'm like, that thing's undone. I have to go and fix it and finish it. And I find that that's a great way to get into work in the morning. However, on the other hand, like you just said, it probably is best for our health to go and do a run first than jump right into that task, right?
I cannot do that. You saying that is like it nails down a blackboard from me. You saying that of leave a task undone the night before. That's actually like the worst feeling. Like I'm feeling sick you saying that. I can't do that. Like I can be falling asleep.
I have a hard time with it as well. I'm like, I just got to finish this little thing. But yeah, I was told that that's a really great way to motivate yourself in the morning if you're having a trouble getting going in the morning. But yeah, I don't think you and I are those types of people.
No, it would definitely work for people that I know. Because I know so many people say to me that if they work from home, they might work from home a couple of days a week, and they're always cleaning the house and always find out that they need to put on the washing. And I'm like, I don't have that problem. I've got the opposite problem. I'm like, oh my God, I've got to go and put on my washing, or I've got to go and like clean my house. That's like a secondary thing for me. And usually I have a cleaning lady for that reason, because I just find I'll just pay someone else to clean for me rather than me having to do it. Because I definitely don't have that problem. But you're right. If someone has that problem, that's a great way to get motivated in the morning of you've got to get that task finished.
Yeah. And you know what? I think really when it comes down to it, because I've been self-employed now for 8 years, and I've had times where I would rather clean than work. However, I think what happens then is you just get off of your passion path and you start to spend time doing things that are really not making you happy. And if that's the case, I mean, if you're having a hard time with motivation, I would think that you probably need to make some changes in your business because you're doing things that aren't making you happy anymore. And that's why cleaning is more exciting to you than actually getting to work, right?
That's exactly it. I have those moments. I had it yesterday because I'd been away and I came back and I was sitting here and I was like really unmotivated. And I said, what is going on? Why am I so unmotivated? And I looked around and I went, you know what? It's probably because I feel like I'm living in a tip right now, because I just had everything. I emptied out my suitcase and I had things everywhere. And I said, right, I do actually need to do a cleanup. I'd like washed some clothes, but they were in piles. And I went, right, I've got to go and put everything away. And I don't do that often, but occasionally I realize that is why I'm unmotivated, that I just need to clean up around me. But other people I know, they try to keep everything so perfectly clean that they spend so much time cleaning and less time working. And like you said, if that's the case, then maybe there is something else going on there. And you've got to look at, what you're doing in your own business.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting a little bit of distortion on your line. I wonder if that's something that's happening right now.
You know what? I can change it. If you just wait a second, it's going to cut out for a second and I might have to call you back. Is that a problem?
Okay, yeah, we can continue.
I've got to change over to my other internet connection because I just noticed it keeps jumping back. Let's see. Can you hear me now? Hello? No. Hello, hello. Oh no, now it's cut out. This is what happens when you go live. Let's see if this works. Hello? Hello, can you hear me? No, it's completely cut out. The joys of technology. Okay. Let's see if this works.
You have signed in.
It's not going to work. Oh, hello, can you hear me now?
Okay, can you hear me now?
Perfect, now I can hear you. Is that
I
better?
can, yeah. And I just listened to it, and it's okay. It's still usable.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, I've got two...
It's crackly, I found.
Yeah, I've got two routers, and it keeps jumping back to the other one. So this one is always better for me, but it just jumps around sometimes.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, no, I just listened to the last little bit of that last one, so it's still usable. We don't have to restart or anything.
Perfect.
Which is awesome. Okay, let's see. I'm recording again, so we'll just take... Are you all set, or...?
Yes, I'm ready.
So, Caroline, a lot of entrepreneurs and home business rock stars here, they're a bit of readers. I'm not sure. Do you read a lot, or do you listen to audiobooks, things that inspire you that way?
You know, it's a really bad thing. I used to read a lot, but recently I haven't been reading all that much. I listen to a lot of podcasts, though. I do listen to a lot of podcasts. Yeah. That's my thing, where I get all my information from.
Yeah, I used to do a ton of reading, and I'd always have a couple books on the go, and I've had a couple books now that have been sitting there for quite a while because I've really just switched to listen to audiobooks and listening to podcasts because I find that, you know, it's nice to be able to put something on in your ear as you go for a run or as you're doing your chores or whatever it is, right, just to get you in the mood to do some work, right?
Exactly, yeah, I do find it really easy. I think by the time I finish for the day, sitting down with a book, I'm just... Yeah, I don't really get into it like I used to.
Now, is there any books, though, or any audiobooks that have made an impact on you, or any podcasts that you can recommend to our audience to get some motivation in their business?
Well, my favorite podcasts at the moment are The Top. I don't know if you've heard of that one. It's called The Top Entrepreneurs.
I haven't heard of that before.
Ah, okay. It's got, I always forget his name, and that's really bad of me. I can't think of what his name is off the top of my head. It's just called The Top. It's actually called The Top Entrepreneurs something, but if you look at the cover of the podcast, it's called The Top. And he's actually fantastic because he interviews really high-level entrepreneurs, but he goes into their figures. So sometimes he gets into huge arguments with people when they're saying, oh yeah, I'm a millionaire. And then he goes, okay, break down your figures. And then he goes, no, you're not. You don't make any money. And really breaks them down on, you know, the money that they're actually making. So that one's interesting. And then the other one I love is Perpetual Traffic by Digital Marketer. That's the one I listen to all the time.
Cool. Okay. Perpetual Traffic. That Top Entrepreneurs one, that sounds actually really cool because you know what? I've talked to so many coaches and especially coaches I find that are notorious for not making the money that they say they make and then trying to tell me that they're going to help me make money. And I'm like, oh, come on. You don't take advice from someone who hasn't walked the path that you want to go walk. It just doesn't make any sense. So, I find that I love that kind of podcast where they'll really dive in there and be like, okay, no. The real numbers are this. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I've actually stopped calling myself a coach, because at one stage I still do coaching for people when they come to me through referral, but I actually no longer say that I'm a coach, because it's just become such a horrible area of the amount of people that I personally have seen that I know were doing nothing. They'd never had a business, they've never done anything online, they don't know anything about anything online, and then they're saying, oh, pay me $1,000 a month and I'll teach you how to make money. And I'm like, you've never done anything online, you've never had a business online or offline. So I get really frustrated by that as well. And some of the things I see. Oh, can you hear me now? I'm gonna